Ooh, Armin, well done, you're first. Welcome to the stream for Tier 1 at Jeddah. First race of the season for Tier 1. And unfortunately, we've already lost our first soul. EA, two souls have lost. Okay. 2 players have struggled. 3, okay, please don't tell me the whole session's just died. Hopefully not. Whilst we get into the session, I'd like to remind you all, we are affiliated with Rogue Energy. Please do use code PHX for 10% off of your order at checkout. Let's check if this works. It does work. Woohoo! Welcome to qualifying at Jeddah. Clear skies, shock horror. Who would have thought that, you know, Rogue Energy. Rogue Energy's, well, it's an energy drink company. So I don't know, Nadim. Give me a moment, and I'll just sort that out now. It removed your perms. There you go, Nadim. Yeah, welcome. Let's get some information up on the screen as my controller disconnects. This is brilliant. Jeddah, one of my favourite tracks by far. I thoroughly love it. It is a very quick track. It is a very fun track. It is the one track with the most corners on the calendar. Jeddah has, sorry for looking at the pause menu, one moment. Jeddah has the most corners. It has 27 corners throughout the whole track with an average speed of 180 miles per hour. Pulse here, one moment. I will get you back in here. It has an average throttle application of 72% throughout the entire circuit, and it has 3 DRS zones. You probably already all heard this information because of the Jeddah Grand Prix that happened just a few hours ago. My phone is dead. Wonderful. So you will have heard all of this information, but I will say it again because it is quite useful and quite interesting information that Jeddah is such a high speed. I have broken my game. There we go. Such a high speed circuit with so many overtaking opportunities that it'll be interesting to see what our drivers can do. Tier 1, if you do not know already, is our no assist tier. All of our drivers have nothing but the racing line enabled. This is by far the most drivers we've ever had on the grid for F1 Tier 1. And we've got Maverick crossing the line first, but actually we're going to go with Awful Snake for his Tier 1 debut with AlphaTauri. AlphaTauri got good points last season. Unfortunately, I cannot remember what position they finished in last season, but their team principal, great man. I love to chat with Zoltz from time to time. I do look forward to see what Aston Martin can do. Oh, not Aston Martin. Panos, you've confused me now. What AlphaTauri can do, as we have our first retirement. SMH, unfortunately, has retired from the session, and Snake has abandoned that lap. Let's turn up my audio because it is turned down and I can barely hear the engines. Right, let's get that track map back up so I can see everything and you can see everything as well. I think Maverick, I need to get rid of that. Maverick was the first to cross the line, so let's see what Maverick can do. Unfortunately, or even not Maverick, it was Chris. I don't know. No, I think it was Maverick. I'm losing my mind here. My bad. Maverick coming towards the line to finish the first hot lap of the session. And the time to beat is a 1:32.2. Now, we already know from Jeddah qualifying last night that you can definitely get lap times faster than that. I think last season as well, we had Shanae set a 1:29 or a 1:28. Pretty sure we had a couple drivers in the 1:27s as well. Sinister now signed on with Alfa Romeo, goes for a 1:31.3, quickly dropping down. Fudge with a 1:30.9, and Kudos re-signed with Ferrari this season with a 1:28.4. JP the previous champion with McLaren, signed on with Aston Martin, goes 4th place with a 29.4. Is that? I think that's Maverick backwards. No, it's not Maverick. That's Chris backwards, unfortunately. And that is a front wing missing. And there's a wheel on the track on my screen. I believe that will probably be from SMH there. Shanae, our previous champion, is currently out on our hot lap going through into the second sector. Second sector only containing one DRS zone. Each sector practically contains one DRS zone. The last DRS zone, which is the pit straight, goes from the end of the third sector into the start of the first sector. DRS zone in this game doesn't translate so much into real life, but you do gain a significant amount of speed compared to the other drivers around you, and will certainly help them make the overtakes. Hopefully we'll see no DRS chickens in the race, as we did see, well, we almost saw a few times in Jeddah just earlier this evening. Now as we see Shanae come towards the final hairpin to finish his first flying lap of the session. Let's see if this will be a banker lap. He does have a Haas in front of him, but I think he's staying clear. No, he might get a tow from this Haas to the line. Fastest lap improvement by a 0.2 improvement to Kudos with a 1:28.2, and I certainly think that Shanae has it in him to get a sub 1:28 lap. Yeah, Joe, it's quite impressive to see 19 drivers in the lobby, only 18, unfortunately, in on the grid for qualifying, as we did lose SMH right at the start of the session. Let's have a look at the other drivers. We do have Uber racing with the Alpine. Unfortunately, we do not get to see the pink livery that we see in real life. It would be nice if the game approved that, but it's EA, and you know they're not the finest at making these things. So, you know, it's great. Kudos. Oh, Kudos. Rico putting in an exact time for to Kudos. Yeah, good spot there, Joe. That is a very impressive time by the Haas driver, but unfortunately, because Kudos was the first driver to set that lap time, he will be the driver found on top between those in that pair. Sorry. We are still yet to see a sub 1:27 lap. Let's see. We've got the team principal for AlphaTauri Racing again in Tier 1. Unfortunately, we do just see him having a bit of a spin through that first hairpin. It is a very quick hairpin. You can very easily lose the rear end of the car if you're not careful. But I do look forward to seeing what he can do. We do have, I believe, only we got 3 team principals on the track today. 4 even. We have Shanae in the Alpine, currently sitting in P1 with a 1:28.2. We then also have ourselves Mr. Paul Sear in the Haas. Unfortunately, he is on an invalid lap, sitting in 14th with a 1:31.6. We also have Shanae's not Alpine. I forgot. Yeah. My bad. Shanae was with Alpine. He did win last season in Alpine, and then he became a team principal for Williams. And so Carabiner unfortunately lost his championship driver, as we now lose Zoltz and Uber as well. But yeah, we've got Maverick as well. He is the 3rd team principal on the grid, sitting in 15th place with 1:32.2. And unfortunately, we've lost our 4th team principal, Zoltz, sitting in 18th at the moment after a very unfortunate DNF. Williams is a very good team. I don't know if they're the best team. We'll have to see. I think Shanae might actually have some competition on his hands. We do have JP back on the grid, so it'll be interesting to see if JP will be out there fighting for that top spot in qualifying and fighting for that race victory in that green car. Honestly, I do like that green car. If someone finishes P1, Pulsar finishing Pulsar is just he's gonna fly. Red Bull gives you wings, but Haas just kind of floats everywhere. They don't need wheels. You know, I think people, from my opinion, from my point of view, I think the people to keep an eye on for a potential victory here at Jeddah will be the likes of Rico and Kudos with the exact identical times. We've got JP, previous champion, Tier 1 champion with McLaren. And we've got some new faces as well, or an old face as well. We've got Maverick back behind the wheel for McLaren. Dante's found himself up into Tier 1 as well. Gravy, a new driver. Red Bull with a brand new lineup as well. So many new drivers, I'm not even going to list them all. But let's see now, JP going around for his second or even third hot lap, I don't know at this point. And will we see JP improve? He needs to improve by 1.2 seconds across the entire lap to find himself up there on the top spot. An onboard, here you go, you can have an onboard. Your hotkeys aren't working, by the way. They don't like me. Are you sure it's not something they set up custom? Because if it is custom, I'll have to go through the settings and find that for myself, but they don't seem to work for me. I'll do that after they're on board. Now we're coming towards the first chicane in the second sector. Now, I personally love this chicane, mostly because it really sets you up quite nicely for the DRS straight. In fact, there's a driver ahead of JP, and that does appear to be... No, it's the Red Bull. The Red Bull got out of the way in time. Keeping his car very well under control through those last few corners. Now towards the hairpin. Yeah, he is backing out. Did invalidate at the end of that sector. Same corner where, unfortunately, another Aston Martin, as Boom 101, Ethan puts in a incredible lap and takes second place from Kudos. But yeah, unfortunately, JP invalidating his lap at the same place where Stroll lost almost a whole second in qualifying last night. So we'll have to see what can JP do now going through into the first few corners again. Very tricky, the track limits on this track. It's a little bit hit and miss around this track as Rico puts in a fast lap with not just a small improvement. That is almost half a second improvement with a 1:27.79. That is an incredible lap by the Haas driver. Shanae has definitely got some competition on his hands, I believe. And let's stick with JP now, going... Oh, he's unvalidated his lap. As Rico puts in a stellar lap. Unfortunately, I miss out to see... You know, I give up on speaking English. Shall we speak Spanish instead? It's just not going my way at all today. Let's have a look. Is Maverick on a hot lap? I believe he is. I thought he was about to invalidate his lap there. Fortunately, keeping it within limits. Is he on a hot lap? I don't think he is. Almost invalidating his lap there. No, he's 3 seconds off the pace. Oh, why do we constantly have yellow flags? Can we have the yellow flags go away so we can see the timer? Oh, low fuel mode, that'll be why. 4 minutes left, right, so drivers have, with a 1:30 average lap time, we have a couple laps left. I'll be impressed if anyone can do 2 laps on 2 sets of fresh tyres. Baby Bell? Why'd you say Baby Bell? I really want Baby Bell cheese now. Baby Bell cheese is honestly so tasty. I love Baby Bell. Here comes Dante. Will we see an improvement, Dante? Currently sitting in 10th place with only 1/100th of a second from 9th place with the awful snake in the AlphaTauri. Does have a car ahead in front of him. Unfortunately, I believe that McLaren is just far enough ahead that he's not going to get any damage to his lap time. Through the first sector, keeping his car well within the limit. Seems possibly a little cautious, but he still managed to improve 2/10. So currently making big steps towards a improvement. I believe that is Chris out currently on outlap. He did get a bit of a toe there, but we'll see how it improves into the first chicane now, keeping his car on the limits of the track. Right there. Baby bell, baby bell, baby bell. DRS wide open now for the second DRS straight. 1 of 3 on this track into the chicane, where previously his teammate did unfortunately invalidate his lap. There is still a tyre on the track on my screen. This is wonderful to see. Now, as we have another yellow flag in Sector 1, coming towards the final hairpin, where the DRS detection zone is right there. You just saw the line, but in real life now it's been moved to the exit of this corner. Try and reduce the number of DRS chicken games that people have now across the line. Fortunately, isn't an improvement by the Aston Martin driver, but I believe he might be out on a second hot lap. We go on with Kudos now coming towards the final chicane. He is 4/10 up on his previous lap time, assuming the graphic there is correct. Now to the line, let's see what the Ferrari driver can do. Can he find himself up on the front row of the grid? He does, with a stellar improvement. Finds himself now just 7/100th of a second off of being the second driver to have a sub 128 lap. Don't worry, Armin. I've looked at the suggestion you had, and I thoroughly love the idea of the overlays. I just didn't have any time today to be able to set them up for tonight's stream, but you can expect to have them on hopefully for next week. No promises, but I will work with the team to try and get it sorted out. Sinead crosses the line. No, Sinead does not cross the line. Why did it just disappear, showing he's on and out? God, EA, I love this game. Thank you, EA, for designing such a beautiful game. Let's see Sinead now coming towards the line to start his final hot lap of the session. Will he be able to improve his time and be able to grab the front row, or will he improve it by so much, by half a second in fact, as Chris now retires from the session? Unfortunately coming into the final corner, possibly a collision, I cannot quite tell. What is that, a Haas driver going through? I don't know. I believe possibly a collision as I go on board back with Sinead. Unfortunately, snap of oversteer it looks like sent him in the wall, and that will be the end of Sinead's qualifying there, sitting him in 3rd place. Let's look behind him. We've got Spelled Wrong. Thank you for your name, love it. Yeah, I think it was an Aston Martin and the McLaren colliding in with one another. We'll have to see afterwards from the reports as Dante now retires from the session further into the track. Can the Red Bull driver, currently sitting in 4th and 5th place, but can the Red Bull driver, Spelled Wrong, improve his lap time and beat his teammate, or even better, get to the front row of the grid? We do have Rico's out on another hot lap. I'm curious to know if he's able to find any improvements on the track. Perhaps get to a 127.5. That would be incredibly impressive if he manages to pull that off. Oh, of course a Red Bull can. Yeah. Let's see if the real life events translate into the game as well. Hopefully they do. We do have a lot of new drivers, as I mentioned before, and Spelled Wrong being one of them. It does sound like he's backed off of his lap. So we'll have to see who else is there. Gravy, I believe he is currently on a hot lap, going round the final corner. Sinead obviously cannot improve that time. Cross the line, Gravy with a brilliant lap, 6/10 improvement, and takes 3rd place from Sinead. Now finds himself on the 2nd row of the grid. And Rico, improving his lap time, finds himself in 1st place still, but with a whole 1/10 improvement. Stellar lap by the Haas driver. Let's have a look. We've got a Mercedes coming towards the line with an improved lap. Will we see him bump up a few positions into the top 10? Perhaps, in fact, finds himself in 10th place. So brilliant lap by the Mercedes driver. Next to come towards the line is Pulsier, unfortunately locking up into the final corner and has an invalidated lap. Pulsier, being the last person to cross the line for qualifying, will start in 16th place. That is an incredible qualifying session to have Rico put in the first 127 sub 128 lap of the session, and then no one else is able to come close to it, except for Kudos, and then Rico smashes it out of the park again with another brilliant lap. That was interesting. Brilliant start for Kudos, signing on for a second season with Ferrari. Don't worry, I'll be unbiased. I am the Ferrari team principal, but I am able to put away my feelings for Ferrari and continue to do the commentary without rooting for Ferrari, Forza Ferrari. But no, brilliant. We do have, obviously, the new faces. Rico up into first place with Haas. Gravy onto the second row with Alfa Romeo. So brilliant start for the Alfa Romeo newly signed driver. And then we have the Red Bulls locking out the third row of the grid. So it doesn't appear to have translated from the real life session to the game, but who knows? You know, maybe the pace of the Red Bull drivers will come through and will be translated into the game. We'll have to see if Ethan and Spelled Wrong have the rocket ship of a car that Max Verstappen had. I honestly, as much as I'm still hurting from the whole Red Bull fiasco last season, that was revealed last season of the cost cap, I still find it quite impressive. Perez, brilliant drive along with Alonso, but Verstappen, I don't know how he did it, to go from, what was it, qualifying 15th because of a drive shaft problem, to then still having a possible drive shaft problem towards the end of the race, but finishing in second. It's honestly, I have to say, quite incredible. But yeah, now as we are waiting for the race session to start for our first Tier 1 race of the season with a completely full grid. It's honestly bonkers to see a full grid. I'm so used to streaming these races last season when we only had, on a good day, we would have 14 or 15 drivers, and on a bad day, there'd be maybe about 9 or 8 or 9 drivers. So it certainly is amazing to see so many drivers on the grid today, and hopefully we will continue to see this many drivers. The race is a one-stop race. We can see now a lot of drivers there's a lot of mixed strategies here. And it is very interesting to see that no one has actually opted to go for the softs, which is understandable. The softs is probably the worst strategy to go for, because in the game, unlike real life, you can't do a one-stop with the softs, as far as I'm aware, because the hards drop off a cliff, and so do the softs well before you can do a one-stop from softs to hards. But I can be wrong. I am a terrible driver. I'm happy to admit that, and I probably am horrible at managing my tyres around Jeddah. So I will be interested to see what the drivers can do. Of course, those starting on the hards for the first 5 to 6 laps are going to have a much harder time to warm up and fire up those tyres and get them within the window to be able to push the limits of this track. There you go, there's the one-stop, two-stop for mediums. Thank you for not showing me the possible options for those starting on hards, EA. But although the hards will have the disadvantage in the first handful of laps, they will certainly have a huge advantage towards the end of the race, finishing on those mediums. And then obviously those on the mediums at the start of the race will have the advantage now. And we'll have to see. Maybe someone is daring enough. We've seen it last season. I think Dante is the only person that comes to mind to have done a one-stop from softs to hards. He did it. He did hards to softs, I believe, at Portugal. And it almost pulled off. And I think he did the same at Jeddah last season and actually managed to pull it off. So certainly will be interesting to see if anyone does opt for the softs at the end of the race, as we see there Chris unfortunately going into the wall there trying to warm up his tyres. Spelled Wrong, the second of the Red Bull drivers, disqualified. If you do not line up your car perfectly on the start in your pit box, the game will disqualify, and unfortunately you will start the session with cold tyres. And especially for that Red Bull driver, starting on cold tyres on the hard compound tyres is not going to be fun at all. So let's see who is going to get the better start at Jeddah tonight with the 5 red lights, and away we go. Looks like a good... I hate this camera angle, but it looks like a good start by the Haas driver. And there's a lot of moving positions. Let's just wait for the first few corners. The Red Bull and the Ferraris get through cleanly. The Red Bulls are fighting with the Williams. Chenet unfortunately finds himself down a couple positions there. Oh, there's a driver sideways. That is Chenet, in fact, I think. No, that wasn't Chenet. That was his teammate. Unfortunately, Derry OG, Chris as well, out of the race. Oh my. That's a very unfortunate start for the newly signed Tier 1 driver with McLaren to find himself now out of the race. Rico having a brilliant start on those hard compound tyres and finds himself ahead of the Ferrari on the medium tyres. Gravy and Boom finding them up. Let's change this detailed information to the position changes. Fortunately, Spalled wrong, finds himself down into the 12th place. Now Derry OG finds himself retired from this race. Debut race with Williams now finds himself out of the race before the second sector is even complete. Slightly further down, let's have a look. We've got Trexie reserving in for one of the Ferrari drivers. Now finds himself up into 6th place. Fudge start qualifying 10th place, finds himself up to 7th place. Very good start for a lot of these runners, especially those who have started on the hards and have defended brilliantly off of the line with those disadvantaged tyres. Maverick also up 4 places. Zoltz starting in 18th on those mediums has got a stellar start, now finding himself just 1 position away from a potential point in the pocket. Yeah, unfortunately, Spald is now finding himself... Oh, what's happened here? Gravy's gone off into the runoff area. I would assume that is a huge lockup by the Alfa Romeo driver. Very unfortunate to see. Now finds himself down into 12th place. That does promote Boom up into 3rd place and Chenet back up into 4th place. Spelled wrong now to the pits. I suspect that will likely be, yeah, front wing damage, fortunately, and onto those medium compound tyres. And hopefully he will be able to come back. Armin as well into the pits, possibly with the same. Armin, in fact, retiring for the session in the pits as well. So far now, we have not yet completed our second lap of this race, and we have lost 3 drivers, 2 of which were lost from a first lap incident. So very spicy first lap indeed. I wouldn't be surprised if I see a few reports in the session for this. That's fair enough, Armin. But now it is, it's quiet a little bit now. It's quite scary how quiet it is. We do have a few drivers catching up. We've got Dante in 14th place, up 3 positions. On those medium tyres, he is catching SMH just ahead of him in the Alpine driver. He's actually going for an outside move well before DRS is even open, and he does manage to make the move into the braking zone. Beautiful move. Boom 101, stealing the fastest lap from Rico. And now Dante up into 13th place. There you is. There you are. DRS is now enabled. Extra speed provided to all of the drivers going down. If they cross the DRS detection zone within 1 second of the car ahead of them, they will be able to open that rear flap on the rear wing, and that will give them extra speed. This track does require a significant amount of downforce. You do want to be able to have your car stable going through the corners, and by having that rear wing open up, you will reduce that drag on the straights and you will increase your speed, so making overtaking a lot easier. We do have ourselves an Alfa Romeo sandwich with the Alpha Tauri team principal right in the middle. It's a 3-way battle, 4-way battle at the moment. Dante looking to make another move on Uber, the other Alpine driver. And now with DRS enabled, he's going to go through this chicane and will soon have DRS enabled. Does seem to go wide there, and hopefully he doesn't get a penalty there. You can go across track limits 3 times. Here we go, helicopter cam, and you can see a move at the back there. That is the Alpha Tauri of the Awful Snake getting across and ahead of SMH there. Now Dante will come to the DRS line. There it is. DRS will be wide open. There's even an Alfa Romeo and Alpha Tauri fight just ahead of them, going 3 wide into that final chicane, into that final hairpin, sorry. And now Kudos with the fastest lap. Dante finds himself a position ahead. Gravy as well. Fudge is fighting with Trexie. Oh, there's a lot going on here. Fudge with a 3-second time penalty. First driver to have the track limits penalty in this race. Sinister at the back fighting with the AlphaTauri. Now both AlphaTauris find themselves up a position. In fact, there's a collision between the 2 Alphas. And unfortunately, there is 5 positions lost, and now Mr. Sinister finds himself down into 15th place, and Zolt's down into 14th place. Gravy managing, fortunately, to get through that battle without a scratch on his car. Further up ahead, Rico's just continuing to pull that gap. He's now at 1.3 seconds ahead of Kudos, and is clear of any DRS danger from the car behind. Kudos still pushing to try and stay within that DRS range. He's now going to have to defend very soon from the Red Bull driver behind, and behind him, Shanae as well in that Williams, the previous champion from last season in the Alpine, newly signed team principal for Williams. There will be 2 cars behind Kudos with DRS, with a potential double overtake. We'll have to see now coming into the final hairpin. Unfortunately, the Red Bull and the Williams is not close enough to make the move, but Shanae going down the inside, and the Ferrari, unfortunately, Kudos has lost the car coming out of that final corner, now finds himself down into 8th place as he recovers and gets back underway. Now, Boom going side by side with the Red Bull into the first corner, with the Williams into the first corner. Unfortunately going off of the track, but finds himself ahead. I'm not actually sure if that was a illegal overtake. We'll have to see if the game penalizes. Now we've got Zolt coming side by side with SMH into the first corner. Brilliant move by the AlphaTauri. Kudos, unfortunately, because of that incident, having to pit for the hard compound tyres and a front wing change. Hopefully he does turn it around. The hard compound tyres, I believe, can last about 15 to 17 laps. We'll have to see what happens through the race. Further ahead, we've got Shanae still right on the gearbox of the Red Bull driver. Dante now being the second to fall victim to track limits. Now going into the first chicane, there is a DRS straight right after. There's the DRS detection zone. Shanae will have the DRS. He is right all over that gearbox of the Red Bull driver. He will have... where is it? I think it's already open, to be honest. I can't tell where the DRS zone is. There's the second DRS detection zone. So we will have a second helping of DRS. He looks to have had a brilliant exit out of the corner. Maybe a bump into the wall there as well, but he's looking to go for a move around the outside. I love this helicopter cam. Can we just have this forever, please? He makes the move well before the braking zone. Shanae now finds himself up into second place. Brilliant drive by the Williams driver. Just behind, we've got Fudge fighting with the the Aston Martin. And he finds himself now ahead of JP, but who was ahead across the DRS line? JP was behind. He will have DRS. In fact, both drivers will have DRS on Trexie just ahead. And going for a move down the inside, there was a collision between the Mercedes and the Ferrari driver. Fortunately as well, stopping the Aston Martin driver in his tracks. And there is Maverick, the only McLaren driver on the track, catching up to this fight now. Hopefully Fudge did walk away from that without damage. It'll be unfortunate to see if all 4 of those drivers, or 3 of those drivers, came out with damage. If we have a look at the tyres, there you go, there's the tyres. We've got Boom pitting onto the softs, and everyone ahead of him has not pitted yet. SMH now falling victim to track limits. So everyone is still on those 5-lap tyres. I can have a drink now. Slightly further back, we've got Gravy, sister team to Ferrari, all over the gearbox of Trexie, reserving in for Paul. Fortunately, was not feeling well, so could not race for tonight. Trexie doing a superb job so far. Let's have a look. I actually don't remember what position he qualified in. Trexie qualified in 7th, and Gravy qualified up in 3rd. So Gravy, unfortunately, was involved in a bit of an incident at the start of the race. In fact, we have a yellow flag now. That's an AlphaTauri. As Gravy goes for a move around the outside along that second DRS straight, I believe, is that Awful Snake? No, unfortunately, that is Zoltz, who has had a bit of a spin coming out of the third sector? Yeah, into the 3rd sector, sorry. JP into 4th. It is a very impressive drive by the Aston Martin. He finds himself now attacking the Mercedes ahead of him and defending from the McLaren behind him. And the other Aston Martin is fighting with the Ferrari. God, there's too many fights now. Gravy is fighting. Oh my God, the 2 Astons are now fighting. Oh, in fact, no. JP, unfortunately, I think maybe there was a collision. I'm sorry if I missed that, but I believe the Aston Martin for JP did find himself not facing the right direction on the circuit. Now finds himself down into 8th place, as you just saw behind there, SMH getting ahead of Gravy now. And so does Uber. Gravy has no front wing, that will explain why. So there will have been a collision, I believe, a collision between the Alfa Romeo of Gravy and potentially with JP for Aston Martin, as JP is now fighting between, apparently the two Alpines are ahead of him, or were ahead, I don't know. Okay, my game glitched momentarily there. But so far, now with 7 laps and Rico setting in the fastest lap of the race on those hard compound tyres, we've got Dante and SMH, the only 2 drivers to have climbed 11 positions off the start of the race. And unfortunately, Kudos losing the most positions, now down to 14th place after qualifying 2nd. Brilliant start for the Ferrari driver. Unfortunate to see him so far down there. Now Dante making a move into the first corner, finds himself up into 5th place and ahead of the Ferrari driver. Gravy into the pits, get that front wing replaced with a new one. Maverick falling victim to the track limits there, as well as Shanae falling victim. Rico looking more and more comfortably in the lead, though there is still 17 laps remaining in this race. There's still lots to happen, as we see that Dante could not make it around that corner. Unfortunately had to cut that corner, and I wouldn't be surprised if he receives a warning for that move. Dante all over the gearbox of Maverick just ahead of him. They are all, although different tyres, it is now 8 laps in. Those mediums will certainly have a disadvantage compared to the hard compound tyres, but will still continue to go strong for at least 5 or 6 more laps. We'll have to see. But Dante all over that gearbox for that McLaren driver. We'll have to see how Maverick does under the pressure. Dante will have DRS, and he will have that current pace advantage go around the outside. No helicopter cam, unfortunately, but we do get to see a superb move by the Aston Martin driver. McLaren with the inside line, though, so Dante having to go the long way around, colliding. There was bump there between the 2 drivers, and I think Dante will still come out of it with DRS. No, Maverick comes out of it with DRS. And so Maverick continues to defend his position from the Aston Martin driver. And unfortunately, Dante could not make that move. Now, Trexie right in the midst of that battle because of that brilliant defending and parking the bus on that apex. Slightly further behind, we've got Awful Snake and Uva fighting SMH for 8th place. These are crucial points in the championship. Obviously, this is the first race. All points count towards the championship. Every point is very important, no matter where you are, because you could be fighting for 9th or you could be fighting for 1st. Who knows? These points could be the winning points at the end of the season. We'll have to see. Awful Snake all over that gearbox. Unfortunately, Uva not able to stick as close as he would have wanted through that sector. Now coming into, as Trexie now retires. What has happened ahead for Trexie to now retire, coming out of that final hairpin? The Ferrari driver is out of this race and is the 4th driver to be lost. Pulsar now also getting track limit warnings and 3-second time penalty. Back to the Awful Snake. Pulsar as well now has retired, going out of the third corner, sorry. We have now lost, what is that, 5 drivers, and now the AlphaTauri for the Awful Snake. He's going to have DRS. He's all over that gearbox of the Alpine driver. He's going to go for a move around the outside, and well before the braking zone, he will have that done and dusted. Now into the corner. The 2 Alpine drivers behind him will have DRS, and let's just hope that the AlphaTauri driver does get a good exit on those hard compound tyres and makes a move. It is now 10 laps in. I do suspect a lot of those mediums are potentially crying at this point and hoping for a pit stop to be replaced. So the medium tyre runners, every driver is required to pit to a different compound. So all those who started on hards will likely finish on the mediums, and those on the mediums will likely finish on the hards. Dante into P3, indeed. He does manage to make that move around the McLaren driver, but we'll have to see with Maverick on those hard compound tyres. Will slowly start to have the advantage now. So will Dante be able to have that pace in hand and pull a gap enough so that the DRS does not allow Maverick to catch, as Maverick goes horribly through that chicane, unfortunately ends up going deep into the corners. Sinister now falling victim to track limits. Further behind, Alpha Snake finds himself ahead of the Mercedes driver, now up into 6th place. Brilliant drive for the newly signed AlphaTauri driver. Awesome to see him now up into Tier 1. As I mentioned before, Tier 1 was our no assist tier. It still is, and now has racing line enable, as SMH now finds his way around the Mercedes driver. In fact, Boom, after a collision, I believe, at the very start of the race, now on those soft compound tyres, will try and go for a move. He goes around the outside. In fact, that Mercedes has no front wing. I have missed something. Yes, Fudge has spun, and I didn't see that. But now here comes the Red Bull on the Alpine driver. He does have the soft compound tyres. He does have the pace advantage. And DRS into the first corner. Finds himself now up into 7th place, and that is Fudge lost from the race. Very unfortunate to see, now being the 6th driver to be to retire from the race. Gravy with the fastest lap. JP with a track limits. Let's have a look at the penalty, shall we? I believe no one has found themselves in the 6 seconds window of penalties. Slightly further back, we've got Kudos all over the gearbox of Zolt now going around the outside. No DRS needed. Into that hairpin and makes the move around the outside. That is a brilliant move by the Ferrari driver. Very unfortunate start, but he did pit for those hards, and those hards are going to continue to go strong. It'd be interesting to see if he manages to make them last to the end of the race, and if he does, that is very impressive. But now we are reaching that point where the tyres are, as far as I'm aware, will be in that crossover where they're both about equal, potentially, I would assume, in terms of their pace. So the pit window should be open now. We'll have to see what people go for. There goes JP first in the pits from those mediums. He will go onto those hard compound tyres and now have 13 laps, or 14 laps, sorry, to complete on those tyres. It's a pretty good stop for the Aston Martin driver. Now we've got Alpine as well in for those hards. Zoltz as well. We'll have to see now where are they going. Kudos finds himself now up into 8th place, of course. I think Kudos, potentially, if he's got himself a spare set of softs, he will likely finish the race on the softs. We'll have to see what happens. Spiraled wrong as well now into the pits. Sick of those tyres and onto those hard compound tyres. Now hopefully to the end of the race. We'll have to see where he gets his car up. Just 3 positions away from points. And rough, you lose around 21 to 23 seconds in the pits. So we will have to see where they are. Rico currently sitting in a very comfortable position, where he can continue to extend his lead and currently only have to pit and find himself behind Dante at the moment. So Rico, very, very good drive so far in this race as we've gone past the halfway mark. Already finding himself a pit stop ahead of the 2 drivers behind him. As Dante now makes it into the pits, Maverick up into 3rd place. Dante going slightly longer on those medium compound tyres to make those hard compounds work a lot better. Awful Snake and SMH are up, so Dante will certainly have his work cut out for him on this outlap. Thank you. I'm not watching just my own driver, alright? I'm watching other drivers. I said I'm an unbiased commentator. I'm going to stick to that as Boom goes into the pits now for those medium compound tyres. So it'll be interesting to see now. The top 5 who have not yet pitted are all going to be finishing the race on the medium compound tyres. But unfortunately, for all the drivers behind Rico, the only fight for first place will be between Shanae and Rico. Who's going to be able to get the best in-lap and the best out-lap, as we see Boom, unfortunately, going wide there into that second sector. Sinister now being the first driver to fall victim to 2 sets of 3-second time penalties, now with 6 seconds for track limits. Yeah, Trexie, it's quite unfortunate. As soon as you spin, I find on this track, as soon as you spin, you can't cool down your tyres enough to then recuperate and be able to fight back. So it's very unfortunate to see, but you know we've got 7 races left in this season, so still plenty of opportunities for you to reserve in if required and score some points for the team. Now, as we see Gravy with DRS going round the inside, down the inside on JP along this second DRS straight and into the final corner. Gravy now up into 8th place. On those slightly older mediums, but still a huge pace advantage over those hard compound tyres, however new those hard compound tyres are. So JP will have the DRS, but unfortunately will not be close enough to be able to make a difference in terms of fighting because of that pace difference. Yeah. Not JP, Dante. Now, Maverick with, that's it, Rico and Shanae, they're in a race of their own with Maverick 21.3 seconds behind the race leader. Oh, sorry, 25 seconds behind the race leader and 21 seconds behind second place. And Shanae, of course, with those 3 seconds of time penalties, he will have to push and find himself 3 seconds ahead of Rico if he wants to be able to finish this race in first place after penalty. So it's going to be a lot of work for Shanae, but he is certainly a driver to keep an eye out for, because I don't doubt that Shanae's got it in him. He's definitely a very, very skilled driver, a very fast-paced driver, and if anyone can do it, it can certainly be him. As we see now, Dante setting a purple middle sector. He is absolutely pushing it. He will have DRS, so will the Alfa Romeo driver ahead of him. He wants that position back. As we see now, Maverick going into the pits had enough of those hard compound tyres. SMH as well. So now it's down to the top 3 to pull the trigger and hit. Awful Snake 28.5 seconds back. Dante with the fastest lap on those hard compound tyres. And JP now finds himself up into 8th place. Or even Gravy finds himself up into 6th place. Apologies. The 2 Aston Martins are now fighting. No team orders. Obviously, it is the first race. I wouldn't be surprised if there are no team orders for the 2 drivers. But interesting to see what will happen. It does certainly look like Dante's got the pace over his teammate. Will they choose to swap or will they fight it out? Nadim, team principal of Aston Martin, I don't know if you're still here in the chat. Are there going to be team orders? Do tell. It certainly would be interesting to see if there are team orders. As the 2 teammates continue to fight it out, we've got Gravy all over the gearbox of Maverick now. He will have DRS along the second DRS straight. He goes down the around the outside. Very, very clean move by the Alfa Romeo driver. Now finds himself up into 5th place. And Dante and JP are continuing to fight. There we go. Rico and Shanae have pitted together. And so there is no difference in terms of their gap. And there goes Awful Snake into the pits. He will find himself down. Kudos will now find himself back up into 3rd place. He will, of course, have those old hard compound tyres compared to the rest of the drivers around him. With 9 laps to go, it'll be interesting to see how the Ferrari driver continues to pull this off. As we go further back, we still have a 3-way fight, half a second between JP and Maverick to Gravy fighting 4th place. 3 different teams for 1 crucial position for a lot of points. Be a great start for the team and a great start to the season, especially considering Gravy being a newly signed driver and JP having left McLaren and now fighting his ex-teammate for the position. It'll be interesting to see what will happen between the trio here. And now this is the only close battle. I say that as SMH manages to make a move around his teammate. It does seem like a very logical move, considering he is on the far fresher tyres compared to Uber on those 4-lap old hards. But back to the McLaren, we've got a 3-car fight. Dante now into the fight again. 4 cars fighting for 4th place as Gravy continues to cut that gap down to Kudos ahead of him. It will soon be 5 cars fighting for 3rd place, fighting for that podium position. God, look at that. That is a sight to see. 5 cars trailing each other, all practically within a second. Gravy just barely in that, just outside of that 1 second gap for DRS. And that will be crucial if he gets that DRS now. As you see, he drops below that 1 second. He will then be able to defend a lot better. As is that a piece of debris from one of the cars? I think that was potentially, I think JP might have some damage there, because I did see some carbon fiber come off of the car, but unfortunately we're just getting an onboard angle and we can't actually see if he has some front wing damage. Certainly something did come flying off of the car. JP has dropped back a significant amount of time to the drivers ahead. Doesn't appear as though, in fact, no, it was Dante with the damage. Dante missing his right end plate of his front wing, but still managing to fight his teammate and catch up. I'm very confused there as to why JP's dropped back then. It'll be interesting to see now. With Dante with that damage, he still shows that he's got the pace. As Rico puts in the new fast lap, a 1:29.9. That will be 26 points in his pocket at the moment, as Dante looks for a move down the inside. As Shanae is unfortunately disconnected from the session. Hopefully we can get him back as soon as possible. But the 2 Aston Martins are continuing to fight down this second DRS straight. Is he going to be able to make a move into the final hairpin? He does look to the inside. And well into the braking zone. He finds himself now up into the 6th position. If you give me a moment, we will have to see if we can get Shanae back into this game. Hopefully he does manage to reconnect before he loses out. Now Gravy finds himself with that tyre advantage now, taking the position from Kudos up into 3rd place. With only 7 laps remaining, it'll be one hell of a drive if Gravy manages to cut that time gap down from 25 seconds down to 3, because Shanae, of course, has the 3-second time penalty due to track limits. But now Maverick is fighting the Ferrari driver. Unfortunately, Kudos finds himself in a very tight position. He's got himself the old compound tyres. Of course, he had that first lap incident after spinning out into the final hairpin, and now he's trying to recover from that. Suffocating, you say both Aston Martins have damage, but it doesn't appear as though JP's got damage. It makes sense why he's gone slow, but I guess we can't see it as potentially side pod or underfloor damage. We'll have to see later on. Kudos not backing out of this fight. He is all over the gearbox of that Alfa Romeo driver. Although sister teams, there are no teams here. It is one team versus another team. Will the Ferrari driver manage to take the position back and get back into the podium positions? Or will he still be behind? He does have DRS. He does look to go for a move down the inside into the braking zone. He does manage to get ahead, but the Alfa Romeo will now have the DRS. And Maverick sitting in a prime position. He will have DRS as well, Maverick. And will he be able to capitalize on the fight between the two drivers? In fact, Kudos continues to have the DRS there. Team orders Kudos give back position to Gravy. Unfortunately, you know, you are the Alfa Romeo team principal. You know, you can't do that. And you say you're better, you know. Maverick now getting another time penalty. I believe that will put him up to 6 seconds. It does. That is going to be a huge loss for the McLaren team. Of course, unfortunately, we lost Chris into the first lap of this race. I think it was even in the first sector. Slightly further back of the grid, we've got spelled wrong all over the gearbox of Zoltz. Of course, he needs to make his way around the AlphaTauri and head to the Alpine if he wants to be getting any points in this race. Both Red Bulls have an unfortunate race, as now he gets another 3-second time penalty. This AlphaTauri parking his car beautifully, very close to the wall there. But he does appear to have the speed now into this first hairpin. He's got the inside line. Does he have the move? He does. He is now 1 car length ahead, and he now finds himself up into 11th place. Zoltz will have DRS. Zoltz will certainly be able to defend this or attack this position again and try and get 11th place back. Further ahead, we go back to Gravy, who's fighting Kudos again. He will have DRS along the pit straight. Are we going to see a change in order for the podium position? They are cutting that time down to Sinead ahead. Of course, unfortunately, Sinead disconnected from the server, and we are trying to get him back as soon as we can, and this will be a huge loss for Sinead's race time. Now, as Gravy into the first corner finds himself ahead and onto the podium again. You want to see the pit stops? Let's have a look. Everyone has done 1 stop except for the Red Bull on 2. Oh, sorry, Red Bull on 2, Red Bull on 3, and your Alfa Romeo driver on 2 stops. Let's put this to... I don't know. We don't need tyres. We don't need anything. Just get it off of my screen. I need to see the drivers drive. Now we've still got our 3-way battle for 3rd place. We do have a battle between the Alpine drivers. If we look back further, we've got Uwe half a second back on his teammate SMH. Of course, his teammate ahead of him does have the faster tyres, but clearly those hards are coming into play, and he does have that grip to keep fighting alongside his teammate. It'll be interesting to see now. I suspect they wouldn't fight. It doesn't make sense for them to fight if they're fighting for the same positions. It is still good points for the team. Rico currently holds the fastest lap. He's got a fast lap of a 1:29.9 on those medium compound tyres. It has been a relatively quiet race for the Haas driver. He had a brilliant start. There's, of course, 4 laps left. I'm not saying he's won it yet. There's still lots to happen. But he's had a very quiet race. I'm actually going to go back to the Ferrari and the Alfa Romeo. Again, down the pit straight, there's just one after the other. Constant moves between the 2 drivers. Now, the Ferrari trying to go around the outside. Unfortunately, that is Sinister just ahead of them. Ghosted teammate to the driver, the Alfa Romeo driver, Gravy. Maverick also trying to capitalize on this fight between the 2 teams ahead of him. Now, along the second DRS straight, if this ghosted car does not move out of the way, the Alfa Romeo will get DRS, but it does seem like they're going to have the pace to clear that lapped car in time before the DRS straight. Now 4 drivers fighting for 3rd place. Maverick with a 6-second time penalty, so although he might come out on top and get that 3rd place on track, that 6 seconds will certainly demote him quite a way down the pack, and unfortunately nowhere near the podium positions. He can continue to fight though. There you go. The ghosted car is out of the way and well before the first chicane, so no DRS for the Alfa Romeo driver. No, in fact, there is DRS for the Alfa Romeo driver. My bad. The Alfa Romeo manages to keep position quite comfortably because of that DRS, and now we continue to have a 4-way battle between Dante, who has, might I remind you, Sinead as his AI decides to pit him. That is still the AI. Might I remind you, Dante has damage to his end plate. And he is keeping up to this pack of drivers fighting. Maverick with 6-second time penalty to track limits is still fighting for an on-track position on the podium, and Kudos now fighting, going down the inside and well before the braking zone. This is stellar fighting by the Ferrari driver, considering that he is also on those very old hard compound tyres, fighting against far fresher medium tyres. He is able to keep up with this pack and continue to fight for that last podium finish. And now Kudos also 1.5 seconds behind 2nd place. Sinead has a 3-second time penalty. Unfortunately, we've not managed to get Sinead to reconnect to the lobby. EA at its finest. Thank you very much, EA. There is definitely a 2nd place on the line here for the drivers behind, as Sinead, as I mentioned, has 3 seconds. So currently sitting after penalties, Sinead is down into 4th place. So currently Kudos and Gravy are fighting for a potential 2nd place if they continue to keep up this pace and stay within that 3 seconds to Sinead ahead. There we go. Beautiful helicopter cam. We can see the 4 drivers all fighting one another. Maverick going for a move, unfortunately colliding with Gravy. And now Dante and Gravy have dropped back out of this fight. Dante, Aston Martin driver, still with damage to his end plate, finds himself up into 4th place and now fighting for this position with Kudos. Very unfortunate to see Maverick. I'm stumped as to what happened. Lock up, missed braking zone, whatever I had the case. That is a huge loss for the Alfa Romeo team. Now Kudos defending only one driver with a damaged end plate, damaged front wing. And Kudos also, no commentator's curse, I hope, but Kudos still with no time penalties for track limits. We'll have to see what happens if he continues this pace. Shanae is still disconnected, so currently catching. Kudos will have DRS along the next straight if he keeps his car within the 1 second. Dante within half a second, still quite an impressive drive with that damaged front wing. I have to say, even I struggle with a damaged front wing, but that is also because I'm terrible at the game. But we don't talk about that. We're talking about these Tier 1 amazing drivers who are driving without assist and only a racing line. Now Dante all over the rear wing of the Ferrari driver. We'll have to see what happens now. He does appear to have fallen back a little bit, but he will have a helping of DRS here. But so will Kudos. Kudos will absolutely love to have that DRS because it'll be crucial to him defending that position with only 1 lap remaining now, or 2 laps remaining now. Coming into the final hairpin, still with a DRS, Kudos is able to defend brilliantly because of that massive pace advantage from that DRS. Now going through the ghosted car of Shanae, he will have a second helping of DRS, but that'll be it. Hopefully, the ghosted car does not impede their battle at all. No, it does not appear to impede their battle at all. And now Kudos up into second place and Dante into third. Dante still with that 3 seconds time penalty, so we'll have to see what happens. So although Kudos may lose the position to Dante, he will have to gain a significant amount of time ahead. We'll have to just double check. Is it 3 seconds? It is 3 seconds for the Aston Martin driver. So we'll have to see what happens. I do not want to see the position change. Give me my intervals back. I've hit the wrong button. That is my bad. We have a yellow flag in the first sector, I believe. That is Uber. We've got a 2-car collision. Uber and Zoltz have found themselves facing the wrong way now, spelled wrong. Red Bull driver who locked out the 3rd row on the grid finds himself now into the points, securing 1 point after a quite unfortunate start for the team. We'll have to see what Adrian Newey has to say about this race. Okay. Dante all over the gearbox again. This is now the final lap. Rico's already crossed the line to start the final lap. And these drivers are on their 24th lap. Kudos absolutely defending brilliantly. He's still got those hard compound tyres. Oh, the reports list is going to be mental. Honestly, I'm not looking forward to that. Dante looking for a move down the inside, but keeping it very clean. Unfortunately, not colliding with the Ferrari driver ahead of him. And down towards the line, it is a drag race. He will have the DRS advantage, but we'll have to see how much that front wing will lose him time into that first corner. Of course, downforce is a huge deal in a lot of these slow corners. Kudos now managing to defend brilliantly and still find himself alongside the Aston Martin driver. No one is backing out of this fight. This is brilliant, clean driving by the two of them. And now Dante finds himself on track in second place. Now the question is, can Kudos fight it back? He has 2 or 3 helping of DRS still before the end of this race. So will he be able to fight it off and keep within the 3 seconds? Or could he also get that second place on track before penalties? We'll have to see though. As he does seem to have lost a lot of time there. Unfortunately, perhaps that DRS was the main thing holding him ahead. But now Kudos, outside of that 1 second, unfortunately, will not have DRS, and on track, Dante has only 1 sector left. He has to pull a 3 second gap by some miracle and a half in order to keep that second place. But unfortunately, it seems like Kudos is able to stay within range. He does have DRS, so he's going to be able to stick right by that Aston Martin. And if it gets a good exit out of this final corner now, Kudos will come to the line. Brilliant drive by the Aston Martin. He's managed to cope brilliantly with that front wing damage. But unfortunately, after penalties, Kudos, after a very unfortunate start of the race, finds himself now into second place. And that is a brilliant start for the Ferrari. Haas, honestly, Rico was in another dimension. He was the Red Bull from Spa, honestly, he was ahead of the pack from the get-go, and no one stood a chance against him. We've got Shanae, unfortunately, disconnected in 4th place. All for Snake up into 5th place. Very good fight for him. Maverick, I suspect, will be receiving a penalty or two. Unfortunately, he did appear to have missed his braking zone or locked up, causing an incident with an Alfa Romeo driver. But that was certainly an exciting race for the first race of the season. The first race of the season where we have a full grid for Tier 1. If the numbers continue to hold up, I certainly look forward to the rest of this season. Of course, next week we have Austria, and Austria being Red Bull Ring. We'll have to see who comes out on top there. But that was one hell of a race, I have to say. I did enjoy that. Very unfortunate that we had 5 drivers lost at the start of the race. Chris in a lap 1 incident, Armin retiring the pits due to technical difficulties. We then also had, unfortunately, I cannot remember. Oh no, this is not good. Chris, who else did we lose? I don't like this. I'm sorry, I've forgotten. Shanae, I tried to invite you and get you back into the lobby. I'm very unfortunate to see that you disconnected and we couldn't get you back in. But that was certainly an interesting race. Let's have a look at the full results. Yes, we lost 6 drivers there. Unfortunately, we lost Chris, Derry, Armin, Pulsar, Trexie, and Fudge. Very unfortunate to see all of those drivers gone. Were you still driving? Oh, right, okay. Well, you were ghosted on our screen, so it was very confusing to see. But still, it was a great drive by everyone. Honestly, Rico, we need a new tier for this man. He was clear gone from everyone else. It was impressive. He managed to get off the line and within the first lap find himself about 2 or 3 seconds ahead of the rest of the pack. And from there, his gap just continued to increase and increase, and it was astonishing to see, to say the least. Now, hopefully, we will have a few people join us in the commentators box for an interview. We'll have to see. It is, of course, a voluntary matter. Not everyone it's not mandatory that everyone has to join the commentary box, as it is for you guys. Though I would love to chat with them because that was incredible. I mean, I don't know how many other words I can use to describe it. Incredible, exciting, exhilarating, thrilling. We'll have to see. Hopefully, we can get a few of them in. I'll have to maybe message Sinead. Would you like to come in for an interview? Kudos. I'd love to have an interview with you because that was a stellar drive for Ferrari. As a team principal, absolutely brilliant drive. As a commentator, every moment of that race was thrilling, and there was a brilliant recovery drive from you and for Ferrari. That is a huge victory for Ferrari. But we'll have to see now if we do get any spectators. Oh, no worries, kudos. That's fine. But thank you for that very thrilling race. Honestly, it was very impressive to see that you had that unfortunate mistake coming out of that final corner, but you had the old hard compound tires compared to the drivers around you, and you were pushing and you managed to keep fighting, and it was very impressive indeed. Let's get Shanae in here. We did have Shanae unfortunately finish 4th place. He did have a disconnect during the session. But then he was saying, as he mentioned earlier in the chat there, that he was driving. So let's see what Shanae has to say. You had rear wing damage as well. Damn, that's impressive. Shanae, welcome. That was unfortunate to see that you had disconnected towards the end of the race. But how was that race for you?
I made it hard for myself to not qualifying higher because I messed up my quali up. And yeah, what's his name? Who won?
Rico SK won.
Rico, yeah, I forgot his name. Sorry. You were pretty equal on pace, so if I had qualified good, maybe I could have fight with him. But I was holding the gap at 5 seconds, so yeah, I don't know. The pace was there, but yeah, unfortunate with the disconnect.
So after that, although it's the first race, there's still 7 races that could change the fate of the Drivers' Championship. But I think you might have an actual contender this time for your defending championship title. I think you might have to work very hard this season. Of course, we got Austria next week. You looking forward to Austria next week?
No.
No, why not?
I don't like this track.
Fair enough. Well, hopefully you may not like it. Hopefully you have the pace in it though, because it will be crucial to your championship fight if you wish to defend your title.
Maybe.
I look forward to it.
We will see.
Regardless, yes. But thank you for joining us. Thank you for that very thrilling race. In second place for basically all of that race until the very end.
Did my AI battle people?
It did. It gave. In fact, it did. I think help Kudos continue to defend quite well to Gravy, but not to Gravy, to Dante behind him in the Aston Martin. But unfortunately, obviously, you also had that 3-second time penalty, and your AI decided to go into the pits about 4 or 5 laps before the end of the race, or something like that. So all of that gap that you had behind you to third place just disappeared in an instant. So it was very unfortunate. I think had your AI not pitted, you probably still would have gotten at least third.
Looking at the race time, I finished like 5 seconds behind Rico.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So with 3-second time penalty, I was maybe 2 seconds behind. But he wasn't pushing to be, so I can't compare, but it was very close.
Well, let's get
that's all.
Rico in here, the race winner. Thank you for joining us, Sinead. I look forward to seeing what you have for us at Austria. You may not enjoy the track, but I certainly will enjoy commentating and watching the race there. So thank you, and we will see you next week. Let's get Rico in here. Rico, our race winner, that was an incredible drive. I mean, from the get-go, in the first sector, you already had like 2.5 seconds clear of the drivers behind you. How was that race for you?
It was just a great race for me, but I had the pace, and I'm sorry I can't talk in English.
Oh, no worries, no worries. Still a brilliant drive. Do you think Austria is going to be a strong track for you?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I look forward to seeing the battle. Hopefully we have some close battles. You were storming ahead of the pack this race. But still a brilliant start for Haas. Thank you.
But I'm tier 2 driver.
Tier 2 driver? You should be a tier 1 driver, honestly.
Yeah, I was just reserving.
I think you should reserve more often. That was an incredible drive. Honestly, you need a new tier just for you. That's it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for the race. I do look forward to seeing you at Austria next week. I think, considering the pace you had today, I think there might be another race victory on the line. We'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll see.
But anyways, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the race for the first round of Season 4. We look forward to seeing you on track next week.
Yes, thank you.
And that will conclude the interviews for today. Thank you, everyone, for joining me for that very thrilling race around the lights, under the lights, at the Jeddah Corniche. I'm speechless. I've got no other words I can use to describe how that race was, honestly. So I'll end it there. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you guys next week for Austria. Timings will be the same for next week. There is no IRL race conflict, so do expect Tier 2 to be at its normal time for 6 o'clock, and of course Tier 1 will be at 8 o'clock, so we will see you then, and until next time, thank you for joining. Cheerio.